Here's a question everybody asks themselves at some point in their lives. How much do first impressions actually matter? Well, we don't mean to sound superficial, but the honest answer is a lot. More than you could imagine, actually. And that's because for most people, the first impression they make of you will last well beyond that moment. If you've been waiting for an opportunity to interact with someone you admire or think of as interesting, naturally you'll want to make the most of that moment and put your best foot forward. But how exactly do you do that? And what are the best ways to introduce yourself to someone you find interesting? If you're looking to improve your social skills and become a master at creating meaningful relationships, then this video is for you. Grab a drink, open up your notes, and let's explore this subject together, Aluxer. Welcome to Alux.com, the place where future billionaires come to get inspired. Here's how to introduce yourself to someone you find interesting. Okay, so start off by sparking the conversation with a warm greeting. When you're about to introduce yourself to someone you want to talk to for a long time, keep one thing in mind. Your vibe matters a lot. Besides making sure your appearances are on point, you also want to make sure your tone is warm and friendly. You don't want to make the other person feel anxious and want to leave the conversation. A warm greeting will help to set a relaxed and familiar tone and prove that you're there with good intentions in mind. There's a simple philosophy behind this. By showing that you're approachable and interested in getting to know the other person, you'll make them feel important. Keep the introduction short and let them know immediately what drove you there in the first place. If you follow this simple rule, you'll have no trouble keeping the discussion going. Just make sure the other person is not short on time or otherwise engaged in other conversations. Pick your timing wisely. Then, use their name when addressing them. Using someone's name when you're introducing yourself will help to create a sense of familiarity and connection. Besides showing the other person that you're paying attention to what they're saying and that you value them as an individual, it's a great way to make them feel like they've known you for a long time. And there's actually a psychological reason behind this. When we hear our own name, our medial prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for processing personal identity and self-awareness, activates. And this creates a sense of recognition and belonging. We've all felt it unconsciously before, and it's the primary reason why it feels good when someone remembers and uses your name. It shows you're interested in getting to know the other person and that you're willing to make the effort to remember and use their name. It's a great way to build rapport and familiarity. But you also need to be genuine and polite. Never try to impress someone by pretending to be someone you're not. People can usually tell if you're being insincere, especially if they're of high value. So try to be as authentic and genuine as possible when introducing yourself. It's important to build trust from the get-go. Our brains are hardwired to constantly scan social interactions for cues that indicate whether or not someone is trustworthy. When we sense that someone's being genuine, the brain's reward system activates, creating a sense of trust and comfort. And on the other hand, when we sense that someone is fake, our brain's threat response system is engaged, creating a sense of mistrust and discomfort. As you can see, a big part of mastering social interactions is getting to know your own biology. Invest some time in understanding this if you want to improve. And while we're on the subject, we suggest you read Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. It's an amazing book that will serve you well in this regard. And after that, focus on being confident, but not arrogant. When trying to create a strong bond with someone and make a good first impression, it's important to come across as confident. But look, don't go overboard with it by transmuting that confidence into arrogance, because that can turn a lot of people off and make them dislike you from the start. And as far as confidence goes, here are a few facts you need to understand. Confidence is processed by the brain as a sign that you're capable and a trustworthy human being. When we feel confident, we tend to speak more assertively, make eye contact, and posture ourselves properly, which can create a sense of presence and make us more likable. And there's also a case to be made that confidence can make us more resilient and less reactive to stress, which can create a sense of stability and reliability. High-value people look for these signs either consciously or subconsciously. And besides that, confidence can also turn out to be contagious. What do we mean by that? Well, when we hang out with other people who are confident, we are more likely to feel confident ourselves. You can see why this is a huge plus. Just make sure you got what it takes to back it up. And if your confidence is a little lacking at the start, you could always ask a mutual connection to introduce you. If you're a more introverted person, this method might prove to be the best out there for you. Social proof matters a lot, and remember, the people you hang out with say a lot about yourself. If the person that's introducing you is high value and respected, well, there's a high chance you will be perceived just the same. Asking for a mutual connection to introduce you is also a great way to ensure that you can create a long-term bond. Use that opportunity to highlight what you all have in common and leverage your mutual interest in order to spark a conversation. Show respect and appreciation for the fact that your friend made it possible, and don't shy away from setting another potential meeting in stone. You want to make sure you remain connected if there's something you want from the other person. And it never fails to give them a warm handshake. Almost any culture has a form of physical contact that accompanies a greeting. Understanding this is crucial if you're big on networking or interacting with people from different areas around the globe. That's because in some countries, what we consider a warm handshake could be interpreted as a sign of disrespect or is only used after establishing a bond. In the United States, for example, people greet each other with a handshake, while in China, firmly shaking someone's hand is considered rude. And that's just one thing to be aware of. Psychology teaches us that physical touch is a great way to build rapport and strengthen a bond. So if you feel familiar with someone, you could even offer them a hug. If you're unsure about that, just scan the room and follow what the other person is doing, or watch how people around you are greeting each other and follow suit. This will serve as a great starting point. And another great starting point is to begin with a compliment. Offering a compliment when introducing yourself could be a great way to break the ice and make a positive first impression. Just make sure the compliment is sincere and genuine. People generally enjoy being appreciated, and it can help to create a sense of connection and positive energy. However, again, it needs to be genuine. That part's important. People can tell when you're insincere, and offering up a compliment that seems fake will have the opposite effect. Additionally, the remark should be appropriate, because if it's too intimate or personal, it could make the other person feel kind of uncomfortable. Now, we've got a great tip right here, so pay attention. It's a really good idea to balance the compliment with a question or another statement, as this could make the interaction more natural. Also, try to avoid offering physical compliments and instead focus on something immaterial the other person has achieved. This will filter out the potential shallowness of it. Be polite, genuine, and sincere. And of course, ask them some meaningful questions. Now that we've established the proper ways to start the first lines of dialogue, let's dive a little bit deeper inside what to ask the other person. There's a simple but important rule of thumb here. If there's one thing most successful people love, is they love to talk about themselves and their accomplishments. Now, there are some that like to keep things behind the curtain and stay more private, but that's not the case for the majority. By asking them questions that facilitate this kind of discussion, there's a high chance they're going to ask you similar questions in return. Use this opportunity to highlight your achievements, your mutual interests, and why you're there in the first place. Successful and interesting people are aware of the fact that when someone tries to enter their circle, they usually want something from them. And that's okay if you know that you have something valuable to offer them as well. It might sound kind of transactional, but in the modern day and age, a lot of things revolve around providing and receiving value. In a world where time is money, people are very selective with who they invest their time with. Realize this, and you'll have no trouble sticking around. And that pretty much wraps things up, Aluxer. Depending on your personality type, you might be inclined to use all or just a few of the tips we've offered you up in this video. What's important is to realize you should develop your own personal method of introducing yourself, as this will secure that you're going to be genuine. Make sure to identify precisely what your vibe is and who you are as a person first. And now that we've mentioned this, what's your personal way of introducing yourself to someone you find interesting? Drop your answer in the comments below. We're definitely curious to hear what you've got to say. And if you found this video valuable, don't forget to tip us with a like for the YouTube algorithm. And with all of that being said, thanks for watching, Aluxer, and we'll see you back here again tomorrow.